Hello everyone. So in this video, we will build a reusable task in Automation Anywhere. So to start with, we'll build a task flow which will read the data out from the config and store those values in a dictionary type variable. So those values can be used later in the main task flow. So it will be somewhat like a reusable task that will be used in the main flow or main task part. So to begin with, before that, I'll just show you the config file. So this is the config file, and these are the values that I have in the config file. So in the config, we have two Excel sheets, settings and constant. Both follows the same format. Name. I'll just scroll down. Yeah, the both follow the same format, name and value. So here our name will be the key in the dictionary, and value will be the value for the dictionary. Okay. Okay, so with that, let's get started. I'll just create a task bot. I'll name it as read config file. Okay, so to begin with, I'll just create some input variables that we will need. So we will need two input variables, and there will be one output variable. So the first input variable will be the path to the config file, which will be of type string, and the second input variable uh, will be the list of string, which will contain the name of Excel sheets. And then we'll have one output variable, which will be a dictionary of string. Okay, so I'll have it as an output variable. Okay, so with these three variables created, let us start building the workflow. So I'll add one try catch activity just to capture if there is any exception in between. I'll switch to flow view just for better visibility. I'll zoom it a little. Okay, cool. So with that, I'll add three steps in this. The first step is to read or open the config Excel file. The second step will be to read data or the table or the sheet from the config file and add those values to a dictionary variable. And third step will be to close Excel file. Okay, so I'll just rename this activity. And add values dictionary, and the last step will be to close Excel. Okay, so with that, let's start adding the activities. So I'll first drag and drop the Excel open action. So here I'll be using the Excel Advanced package, and the reason why I'm using the Excel Advanced action is because I have to read data from the Excel sheet. So that action is only available in the Excel Advanced. With that, I'll pass the file of path of the Excel file where the config file is stored. There is a session name here. Okay. With that, I'll also add a close action to close this Excel session. I'll not save the Excel file. Okay. So now once we have the close Excel and the open Excel setup, let's move with adding the logic to read data from the Excel sheet. Okay. So I'll first add the action to get worksheet as a data table. Now you'll notice in this action, we can only pass a single worksheet as an argument. But here, if I notice in my config file, there are two Excel sheets. If I have more than two Excel sheets, then also we can follow the same logic. So what I'll do, we already had created the a variable, a input argument variable, which will contain the names of the Excel sheet that we have. So this argument we will use to dynamically read data from the Excel file. So here I'll add one loop which will use that list variable to loop through, and I'll store that value because I know that list variable is of type string. I'll change the type to string and I'll have it as here. So with this, I'll have each sheet name available in this particular variable value. With that, I'll drag and drop this particular action inside this particular loop. And in here, if I scroll up, I can pass in the Excel worksheet name based on that particular variable value. Once that is done, I'll make sure to check this sheet contains header, and I'll keep the other option as it is. Okay. Now once I have the configuration done, I'll get the data that is there in the Excel sheet into a table variable. So I'll create a table variable here. Okay. So now we have data read from the Excel sheet, which is in this particular variable. Now I'll have to loop through each row in this particular variable to add that data to a dictionary type variable. So for this, I'll again drag and drop and loop action, and here I'll loop through the data table, and with this, the table name is this. Okay. Now each row in the table will be stored in a record type variable. So I'll create a record type variable here. Okay. Once that is done, now I have the entire loop set up. Now I just need to get the values from that particular row or column, cell value from that particular raw variable, and then I can add that value to a dictionary type variable as a key value pair. So for that, I'll use dictionary put. Okay. So I have already created a dictionary, so I'll use that particular dictionary value, and here the key will be so suppose if this is my first row, so key will be this particular value, which will be at 0 index, and again this value will be at the first index, so my key will be at 0 index. So what I'll do, I'll just use variable here, the raw variable raw, and by index I'll pass in 0 here. Okay, so this will be my key, and for value I know that my value will be of type string only. So here I'll have the value type selected as string in a static value, and I'll copy paste the same expression. I'll paste it here, and I'll change the index value from 0 to 1. So the second value, which is this one, will be my value for that particular key. Okay. With that said, we don't have to do any changes here. We don't have to assign it back to a variable. With this said, we have values available to our dictionary. I'll just add a breakpoint here and we'll do one test run. I'll close this Excel file again. Great. So with that, let me just do one test run. Okay. So now here I have to pass two arguments. One is the Excel file path that I'll get from here. I'll just copy the path of this particular file, and I'll add it here. Okay. Same thing we have to do for the Excel sheet name, where I have to pass in the sheet name here just to test the workflow or the dashboard properly. Okay, so I'll just open this Excel again and copy paste this sheet name. Okay, so once that is done, I can start the run. I'll just close the Excel again, and let's see what we get in the dictionary out variable. Okay, I have added a breakpoint while closing the Excel, so we should see all the values in the dictionary variable. Let us just wait for bot to download the dependencies and start running. Okay, so it didn't wait actually. Let me just run it again. I'll do a step into this time and then we'll see how it goes. The value remains same. I'm not going to change these values. I'll just remove double quotes from this particular variable type. Yeah. Okay, so the execution has started. I have added a breakpoint here while closing the Excel. So I'll play again. I'll continue with the play mode. But if you notice, the dictionary is currently blank. So there is no value in the dictionary variable. And the other variables are also blank. Only the two variables are assigned currently, which is the config file path. Okay. And the second is the sheet name. Okay. Excel sheet name. So with said that, I'll just hit on continue. Okay, so it has again stopped at the pause action. Yeah. So now if you notice, if I open this out dictionary config variable, if I open this variable, now you will notice that I have all the values. Let's see if I can expand it a little. Okay. So if you can see now, I have all the keys and their values available in this particular variable. So this is my key name, this is my value. Again, this is my key name, this is value. This is, so here you will notice that we have one blank key which contains blank value. And why that happen is, if I go back to the config again, and if I scroll a little, here we will notice that I just drag and drop this screen to get off. Yeah. So here we'll notice we have the first key, which is this one, and the value for that particular key. Here at the line number 4, we have one blank cell here. Okay. So that is again captured as a key value because currently it doesn't understand that it is a blank value. So we can do one thing here to ignore those blank values is by adding an if condition. So anyway, our key has to be available. The value can be blank, or we may have a value here, but key should not be blank. Okay. So what we can do here is, in the same workflow, I'll just close everything. I'll just continue this flow. Okay. I'll close this, I'll close this. And here in the loop condition, what I can do, I can add one if condition here, which will check where I'll add a string condition. So here I'm not using this utilities not empty string and empty string because I'll not get option to configure a variable a little. For example, when I do it here, you will understand. So my source string is my key. I'll just copy this. I'll paste it. So I want to add one more thing here, that is to trim this particular value. So there could be a chance where someone has added a blank, where there is a blank cell in the Excel, but it does contain a space. So in that case, it will still add values to the dictionary variable. So for that, I have this stream added, and I'll remove this match case, and it should not be equal to blank. Okay? If this condition satisfies, I want to add the value to the dictionary variable. Here I have not used the thing empty is because I'll not get option to actually add this trim method in the condition itself. So if I go and show you again, see here I only get option to select a variable. I don't get an option to add a method again to that particular variable to trim that particular value. So that's the reason I have used a string condition here. I'll just add it again. Okay, that's not equal to blank. Okay, so with that, let's test it again and see if we get the blank value again in the config variable or not. So I'll do a debug again. Let's add all the variable into watch list and let me hit on play. I'll keep all the values as same only. I'll not change anything. Okay, so the execution has started. Okay, so all the values are red. Now if I go, let us wait for it to update. Yeah, so if I go and check the config variable, now I'll not have any of the blank key values. So the values will be blank, but I'll not have any key which is blank. Okay, only the keys which are there where there is a text available, those will be considered here in the dictionary variable. Okay. So with this, I have all the config or configuration related information available in the dictionary variable, which is my out argument. Then I can use this particular workflow to use it in a main workflow as a reusable taskbar. Okay. So with said, I'll just hit play again. Okay. So I'll just close this workflow, and now I'll create one more a simple task bot. I'll name it as a main bot. So this is my main task bot where I want to have this workflow call to read all the values from the dictionary from the config file. So here what I can do is I can drag and drop the run task bot activity. Okay. So I'll select that particular task bot. Okay, so automatically these two values are popped up. Okay, so there will be one sheet name, and there will be one more argument which is config file path. Okay, so with this I'll also have an output argument mapping. So to easily map those variable to an output value, output variable, I'll use this add variable mapping. Yeah, I'll use this quick map variable mapping, quick map variable. So I'll just click on it. I'll just click on it, and then I'll hit on apply. So it will automatically map the variable to the one that I need, and I'll change the name for the particular variable to the deconfig, because this is not an out argument here in this particular workflow. So I'll just have the name configured as deconfig. Yep. And now again you can pass in the list as an argument here, and the config file part as an argument here. As of now, I'll not use any argument. I'll just pass in the values directly, but you can use the arguments variables here as an arguments for the workflow, execution. Okay. So here I'll create one list type variable. Okay, I have to create it. List of type string. Okay, I'll initialize that variable with two values. Uh, One is settings. Let me just open the Excel again. Okay, and the another value is constant. Another value is constant. Okay, let me hit apply. I'll use that variable here in the argument. Okay, so once that is configured, now I can add a message box just to show you. I can call that particular dictionary variable as an auto argument. Okay. So here in the message box, I'll use the deconfig variable and key. Which key? Let us use this key. This key. Yeah, I'll just pass it here. Right. Okay, so there are two ways we can use the key values, one without double quotes and one with double quotes. So for example, this is without double quote. Let us see if this works. It will work actually, because it works both the way. If your key has space in it, then you have to use double quotes there. I'll just run it again. So this time I have just started run from the run execution button. So here we are not debugging it. We'll have the value available in the message box. Okay, so the value for that particular key is available here. Okay, so here I have not used double quotes while using referring to that particular key. Okay, but there is one more way. Let me just cancel this anyway. The execution has completed, so you can do it in this way as well. It will work in this way also. Okay, so this will be considered as a key again for the same. Okay. Let me run it again and let's see. Oops. see, the value is still available. So that's it for this video. This is how we can, so now we can use this particular read config uh, taskbot in any of the workflow where we have a config as an configuration file available to read data from. There you can use this particular workflow, and there will not be need any modification in the and exist flow. Thank you for watching.